That'll which they'll lead by their act followers that is if you're and such a vital decisions and things that go on policy issues that really need the country in the right way. Looking at that, you obviously have your cap impact of leadership from the standpoint of the Liverpool Football Club. The players felt it. The club felt it. Seeing this manifest over the last few seasons. Point to Man City, but winning Champions League final overtime points all season. Match they have won. They've in terms of points accrued, they are on pace to shatter with 110 points out of in the way that they're playing. I was watching after defeated Manchester United 2-0. Mo Salah goal at the end to put them 2-0, which was a great. It was great to hear in interviews with Mo Salah, and they kept talking even when they would continually go back to team. And later in Jurgen Klopp's interview to great depths talking about how multiple chances. The setup question here: do you feel like your front three are kind of cursed against Manchester? It took Mo Salah finally at the very end to finally put a goal in. And Jurgen Klopp just kind of laughed the question off and straight that we're seeing with the greatness of Liverpool at the moment. He just talked about the work rate of it to the team and how hard they kept working. And he kept going back to the views that they have as a club, as a team, as a squad, that his. And I think if you really want to see greatness, love them or hate them, you've got to tip your hat to what's going on. And what they are doing and the impact of leadership in week out, because the mental toughness and tenacity is so hard. It is so difficult. Time again, and yet they continue to do it, and they should be. And I just think when we look at business, there's no greater example than what in terms of his impact in leadership than what he is doing with something special, something worth watching and following. What all of the players, coaches, leadership, they're just unity to what's going on there, and it's really special. And sponsor this half hour is Ductic Brand. They're coming off a great coaches to that conference. I hated I had a scheduling conflict and couldn't make it. With them and check out some of their products and you didn't make it to the convention, go to ducticbrand.com, DUK.com, and to get 10% off of your next order at Ductic off of your next order. Go there and you'll see what I mean. It's great stuff. welcome back to the show. Always, we are excited to have, and Mr. Midfield Press himself, Chris Kib.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us as always. Days ago, you released press.com. If you're not following that you are doing yourself a disservice if you care at all, especially about from the outset, Chris, to follow your work and your you put out. The headline is 20. So I wanted to kind of first, before we kind of foot view, what is the overall bearish on where NISA is right now?
I think that there's a lot of potential work to do. It's still only through what would be its first season yet. Last year, the people who didn't think that would ever happen, right? Bringing on a different set of clubs than those clubs were not viable, and at the same time, so they kind of did this transition, which other than Philadelphia, right? So Miami being there, but for the most part, they do, and it's a difficult business. So,
do a couple things. League that went in, got kind of provision. Never kicked the ball or didn't last. Just to zoom out of NISA for hide behind and show that they're even competent. It could be USL or MLS. Repeatedly over the years with different leagues. So this and then claim, well, we got to have this, or had teams that never even played, never good process from the federation. I know when you put that the likes of Detroit and Chattanooga and Cal United got through the fall season. Fall session, We're able to kick a ball as a league, able to get going. College standpoint, you would get an incomplete grade on. Off on dotting I's and crossing T's. How getting off of Nisa for a moment and just shining the spotlight. Is it a good look, bad look, or are you indifferent on
ways to parse that? One is that, I think at a high level, right? So there's that whole say, a team like the Michigan venue that can they sort of meet the is Nuga, who had built sustainable merits, but they didn't have that, So I think that when you look at things like that, standard, they can only operate. So they must have reviewed like it's passable. I think there's also that is at play there, where maybe Nisa got than it might have otherwise gotten if the antitrust lawsuit wasn't for U.S. Soccer to reject it. Free standards are pretty low standards, right? Less of a hard time than it might have otherwise gotten if the for U.S. Soccer to reject a new league. And then I think the other issue, pretty low standards, right? There's no time zone requirement, which is kind of teams, right? It's easier than being in division. Things at play, and I think Nisa is was a year ago. So if you want to look at it that way, and then we talked about the net worth ownership's not easier than being in Division II league, right? Things at play, and I think Nisa is clearly much stronger was a year ago. So if you want to look at it that way, and Nisa, that's kind of a good kind of one system.
And speaking of those Founders Cup teams, etc., you and heading to the USL, although Cup teams, etc., you mentioned my and heading to the USL, although I will say in the case, to me, factors that are a little unique to Miami. So to the viability in Inter Miami be basically competing with Inter Miami. So I think different in that regard. Just is NISA going to remain and last and be viable? And the opportunity down the road, we're not cutting it, we're coming back. So I'm sure that was not a phone call they enjoyed getting. Detroit City, Chattanooga FC. This is a big thing. All non-MLS USL League One has to be, and a few years ago, that's now, as we know, in the legal case of themselves coming into NISA, has to be below American soccer in quite, and building the in the article that year, just like 2019, they've got to get their actual less sanctioning from U.S. Soccer said, taking with the likes of Chattanooga, Detroit, and the New York Cosmos.
Extraordinary teams to have joined the league. I think they add a ton of credibility. But with those four clubs, the question just becomes for some of the other guys like Cal United, the fan base. If so, they there to build on, and to when you're looking at you have investors who are trying to make a decision as to going to go to the USL Championship. NISA can and has the money to really pull that off. But play the Cosmos, you're going to play Chattanooga FC, you're going to play 50% reserve past, well past 8, right? When they have 12. Are they still going to get sanctioned? Once they get past that point, I think more attractive in some respect to the equal level of USL than.
When we look at rumors about some issues with Stump 4, it looks like Atlanta SC and the Philadelphia Graveyard and Connecticut and Providence. 3 additional NISA applicants, including Miami Beach, the new Amsterdam FC brand, which I think is brilliant. 3 groups, which are intriguing for a couple. As a South Florida replacement for a geographical standpoint, and then the New York City and clubs in that area, in addition to the Cosmos, move for the league, as you could see some teams based out of New York City. What have you heard on those Amsterdam FC and a New Jersey group? To be determined, and do you see those? See adding a South Florida team and a Jersey team as positives for NISA?
Back to kind of the original vision for NISA when Peter Wilt articulated giving clubs exclusive territories, you actually right, we're near to each other, right? The Cosmos, are going to play them, then you'll have the Cosmos are in the city, not Long Island, and then that should be a good three-way rivalry. Clubs as well as for the Cosmos, which I think would be great. That the owner of the team or the team in Italy, a pro team, as their first signing, so a former Juventus player. There might be something there. It remains to be seen, for their UPSL squad listed on their website, but it's not. I'm not sure how many options there are other than that in Miami Beach. How it all comes together. There's not a whole lot of information. There's not very much at all on. Tell me they think 2 out of 3 will get approved. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, to me, of teams, conversations with several of those who are involved in NISA currently about this idea of building leagues around to some national soccer teams. You look like at the Arsenal, Chelsea, on down, and in and around Watford's in that general area. I mean, there's New York. You obviously have NYCFC playing in a baseball, whatever. But you also have the Cosmos and possibly as well. So you're looking at, the possibility of, then you add in the new USL team that New Jersey type of metro area, if that all kind of worked out, that help us culturally, and I'm looking at this from more so than how do I make NISA, MLS, or USL as in described to the view that it actually will make you better, but and so I think NISA should, if they're not already, in that general area of the country, would be kind of at least a somewhat local rivalry. Are part of the reasons why I think you saw those to the NPSL to basically get bookended on one end with was part of that kind of thinking, was those guys going, hey, the NPSL was as four of us together, adding Jacksonville into the mix. We feel like that's a better thing for us, and should be encouraged around the country. Peter's and really getting more into clusters. As this is the area that I've heard more than anything else, issues in terms of really getting things on solid ground. You mentioned that in terms of some of the front office issues, and you said 3 people with underneath that.
Like I said earlier, it's a difficult business to be in. Lower division pro soccer doesn't make a. I think you need to have people who know what in the right roles, kind of on the right seats on the bus. That means it probably makes sense to bring in some sports stepped up when NISA needed them to. That transfusion I talked about, earlier, allowed NISA to be here. Right? No, it's not to say that anybody did a bad job or and saying, okay, to get to the next level, what do we need to do? And to get to the image that this is not a family business, present an image roles, in these roles, launching this new league, investor perception up when needed, but get the organization focused. That's the type of we'll have in roles to get us there.
Well, it was a family-run business by the Papadakis. The ways that NISA could be, and I agree with themselves from the USL, is the idea that this is that, in order to really kind of bring to the operations, bringing in people that have that experience, that could really help face to the collective servicing and helping the individual clubs. You also mentioned broadcasting and the idea that deals similar to a platform like ESPN, something that is recognized as for the league in a league.
I think it's extremely important because it affects the perception of the league probably more than anything else, because that's how cast, right? So getting it up to a minimum. Ultimately, I feel that ESPN Plus is probably the reason for that is that soccer leagues that it streams, that to even show up in the leagues, I think is a benefit, right? Regularly, and you see what games are upcoming, right? And you see all the different logos to be in that mix, right? It would benefit NISA-tizing to be on ESPN Plus, which is generally very accessible, right? I mean, it's $5 a month. Disney Plus and Hulu is pretty good decently. I mean, you could do it through other stuff, but I think
they're probably making the transition from amateur to professional soccer. I think you were there at the soccer, and I was there as well in their aspirations and things they wanted to do. They're entering in this world of pro soccer. when you look at these two clubs, what are the year one in this transition from amateur to pro?
I think it's probably just managing, their expenses, lose more money than they can afford to lose according to their back in the NPSL. That would be great. Control is probably is going to come, right? So this transition, these are two clubs that, among the strongest foundations of any clubs in the two groups that grew organically. Out that they'll continue to do the same, and you have people who've been at the wheel.
A big fan of the brand, big fan of the launch. Everything that you would want to see, except for the on the field result. Keeping the main thing here for just a moment. They're in the business of quite go as planned. They replaced their head coach. They're trying to get in back stars like Jack McInerney, Benji Joya. Suppose the roots. They're already trying to address what that with Cal United and LA Force. In those two, the field and on the field,
it had an advantage over the Oakland Roots and San Diego 1904. Any of those players playing together in the professional capstone of the FC Golden States. Cal United has been, doing very well, and have had a lot of Jack McInerney. They had some talent. So the Roots need to focus on getting the result than the task that is before Cal United and LA Force to a youth club, which I think is a very interesting thing, and it would be clubs that are large youth clubs, but they need to figure out a way only from the youth club, but from their local markets as well. So LA Force can make a dent in that. I think Cal United seemed to have a national presentation to what they were doing and to have bigger crowds as a result. Put together a more competitive squad, and they'll
look at the announced MLS expansion with another. You have the season. It's got a massive experience there in Charlotte, a suburb of Charlotte, where they were looking to their home and make this viable kind of out of their depth and water here with operating in the championship level already in the area as well.
Thing kind of case study that they can become, and I think they have is that they need some additional investors in order. It'll be interesting to see, can a division survive and thrive in a suburb when you in a city of about 2 million, Charlotte, or Chicago or Los Angeles or the Bay Area. It's a really big market, and it'd be a great thing, I think, if Stumptown can show in a way that shows that piece of the market that in there, and really just be the club and thrive at the D3 level. I think that would be, as many people across the country would be able to replicate. They got to make it that far, though. So my hope is that they do, because
loyal and one of the biggest names, not only being involved in the ownership, its first head coach, for there in San Diego that can be viable. Is it that had all the best intentions, but either from a tough behind, or do you think there's still hope that they can figure it out a second?
So I think there's definitely elements of timing wasn't on their side. What happened there? So there's definitely an element of timing wasn't on their side. Regardless of that, can a club sell? And Oceanside, Carlsbad, which is the fact that stadium was huge. It was already carved out that they couldn't use that. That's a pretty good crowd for a third division soccer in the United States to work with there. But I think the question is, do they have to really withstand niche in that market?
To kind of zoom out, long-term prospects of the project, the league, to reach its overall long-term goal of being a collection of teams. That what are they needing to do going forward to build to
what I think has a lot of investors who've considered NISA in a wait and see mode, is just to get beyond the point where I think you can expect that you're going to lose what we've seen. But they should at least try to be on par with the USL League. I think the more you can, I think that helps reducing travel costs, having more local rivalries. Lower for teams that might be. So to me, that's how it would ultimately happen. Go out far enough, you can say, okay, does it make sense to have a second? The top teams play. First things first, I think they've got to get to 12 teams. Then at that point, you could see the lack of territory them start to build, a greater and greater
really keeping tabs on NISA as a project in the. Thanks for coming on the show. Look forward to having you back on again very soon. And of Midfield Press, do yourself a favor. Like I said, go there today and dig in, because he's got. He really gets into some really good topics and ideas that. We'll be right back after this.
Green water with bad water and we know how person on earth into communities that truly know that you had truly impacted the life of a family, of a community, of a region. There was either clean water or there wasn't. We believe in a world where every single person has clean and safe water to drink, and we will continue fighting until that happens.
Thanks for watching Twitter. You can watch it on Found and all those places. We really appreciate all the feedback on Twitter or Instagram at Daniel Tomorrow.